Oh, yeah. Rock me, dickhead. Rock me. Yeah, I'm Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, you're going to think this have been stolen. But don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Just hang in there, because before long, you will be lean and mean, just like my friend, Miss Gina Grad. Yeah. Do you recognize that artist there, Gina? Do you recognize that art?
Yeah, I don't mean to pull back the curtain and ruin any of the magic for the listeners. It is very hard for me to hear the audio. So from the little tinge of garbled, teeny tiny tin canness I can hear, I'm getting sort of a Van Morrison vibe, but it's very hard for me to hear.
This guy had sort of a Van Morrison vibe, but his name is Bob Seger, and the song is "Feel Like a Number."
I love that song. I just couldn't hear it.
I'm pretty sure you and Mark in the Morning played that like ad nauseum.
We probably put another bought Seeger another boat between that and Night Moves. Trust me.
Well, Bob Seger was one of those really, really wealthy singers because he wrote all of those hits.
Like alone, he didn't share 15 credits like they do today.
No. Bob Seger wrote those songs, and the guy, he's like jet airplane rich, right?
He doesn't he doesn't fly first class. He flies alone.
Yeah, he flies one class, that kind of thing. But that song came to mind, and it's going to be the topic of our conversation because we're going to talk about numbers.
Oh,
and we're going to talk about a couple of different numbers. And one of the numbers we're going to talk about is, I want to say 63 or 64. One of those two numbers. You might have to look it up.
Okay.
Finally, they've done a biopic on Diana Nyad, who I've been a fan of forever.
Right.
And I'm so glad that they used really good actors for it. Annette Bening, who, by the way, I've been in love with since she was young and hot. Now I think she's old and hot.
Yeah, she's a very handsome woman.
Yeah. She, this woman married the world's biggest philanderer and got him to stop philandering.
And she's a classic beauty. She's not bolt on, re-put together. She's a classic, gorgeous woman.
She looks like she was born in the Midwest. She looks like a Midwest girl. We got to figure that out, Gina.
I'm going to find out.
But Annette Bening's in it. She's super hot. And what's her name? Chickapee. What's her name? Chickapee.
Oh. Are you talking about Nell?
Nell. Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster.
Oh my God. I am embarrassed. Everyone stop what they're doing. I am mortified that I didn't know this. Annette Bening apparently is from Topeka, Kansas. So you hit the nail right on the head. And I can't believe I didn't know that, being from Kansas.
You know what? You look at that woman and you go Midwest.
Wow.
Born in the Midwest. There's nowhere else she could have come from.
And her parents are from Iowa. So there you go.
Yeah. And I was going to think back in the day, grifters and all that. I mean, just a smoke show.
Yeah.
And she's come around with age. When Diana Nyad finally did what she did, look her up. I want to say she was 63 or 64.
Long distance swimmer.
Yeah. Well, she was an Olympic swimmer. You see, I remember Diana Nyad trying it back in the 70s or 80s, after her Olympic career, and she was on Wide World of Sports and all that kind of stuff. And back then I kind of had a crush on her. I didn't realize she was a lesbian and she wasn't going to play for my team, but I thought she was I've always liked those kind of boyish looking women.
Yeah.
Right. The real, God, I can name a bunch of them. Hell, my girlfriend in high school, who turns out I was one of her last boyfriends because she's been the same woman for like 40 years. Allison, that's the kind of girl. She was a Christy McNichol looking girl, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Boy, you have a type and you are not their type.
Yeah. They like me because I can play baseball with them. and pick up basketball. But when it comes time for good loving,
Yeah. Show you the door.
yeah, I can cut, but they ain't gonna bleed. Yeah, that's just the way that's gonna work. You know, I'm selling, they ain't buying. You
Oh
know,
my God.
yeah,
So Diana, you're one of your many crushes that unrequited crushes.
yeah. One of the lesbians I'm in love with.
That's right.
Yeah,
Let me know if you want me to give you a little brief history. Well, not you, our listeners, so we're all on the same page.
yeah. Keep that. You got something there? Just keep it there.
I'm ready.
I remember back when she tried it early on, when she had, as I called it, the snowplow in front of her. And I'll explain what that is in a second. And she didn't make it. And then she went and she started trying it in her 60s. I think she was 60 or 61 when she woke up one day out of shape and said, you know what? This is still on my mind. Doctors are telling me just go be old and go die. You know, you're 60 years old, you know, numbers. 60, you're sick. You just go enjoy life, right?
Yeah. A nice coast into the grave.
Yeah. Go get yourself a camper, get another lesbian. You guys go travel to the Grand Canyon and walk around. That's
Right.
what you're supposed to. But Diane Nyad didn't do that.
What did she do instead?
She decided to jump back in the pool and start swimming and go
How far?
Well, she wanted to get in shape so she can swim all the way from Cuba to here, 103 miles. Now, I didn't have the heart to tell the woman, we have these things called boats.
Yeah.
And you can get an Evinrude on the back of that bad boy. It'll get you back and forth pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've seen Miami Vice. You can get some pretty quick boats.
Oh, yeah. From Key West to Cuba. Come on.
You get yourself a Donzi or a cigarette.
Cigarette boat. Yeah.
Yeah. A well-crafted Scarab. You are getting there quickly.
You'll get there before you can say how many kilos.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, you're supposed to dump them offshore and then someone else comes and pick. I mean, I don't know.
I don't either. Actually, that's funny because that has been in the news lately. Like all these random floating, tightly wrapped bags of Coke. So somebody missed their pickup.
Yeah, things happen.
Yeah.
So she tries and she fails. I did not know about that attempt. But then somewhere, somehow, I heard about the second, which was now like her third attempt. Right. And now she's 61 and she's trying again. And, you know, each time she tries, it's not because she's not in shape. It's because she almost dies in the process.
Oh.
Because she doesn't want to use the shark cage. Everyone has done it before that. They're swimming, like the boat has a shark cage hanging off of it.
Of course.
You're swimming in the shark cage and the boat goes. Well, that offers some kind of advantage. And when she did it back in her late 20s, early 30s, she also had like this snowplow looking thing, like this, like two big blades from bulldozers in front of her.
Oh.
And then the shark cage around that. And that was supposed to keep out jellyfish.
Okay.
And all that kind of stuff. Well, she wanted to do it by just having a kayaker on each side of her to fend off sharks, right?
Yeah. Hit them with an oar?
Pretty close. They talk about that in the movie, what they do. And they had some kind of sonar device that chased them away.
Okay.
So she was able to do it that way. But every time she tried, something happened, right? She was highly allergic to, I want to say, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and someone gave her an Advil instead of Tylenol.
Oh.
And she almost went to anaphylactic shock on that or something. And then another time she got hit by these box. It's called, I don't even know what it is. And I understand marine life a little bit. You know, I have my search and seizure dive certificate. You know, I'm past PAT and YMCA. I'm past that. There's something called a box jellyfish, which is, it can kill you. And
like literally they just brush by you and your whole skin becomes on fire, right? Like it's not like they're stinging, like they could just touch you.
Oh no, it hits your nervous system and you get your whole
right. But it's not like they're biting you or something. It's just sometimes they just touch your skin.
Oh, no, yeah, it just touches you. Yeah. It's amazing what's out there. And so she almost dies.
Oh.
And then everyone around her says, we're not going to watch you try to kill yourself slowly ever again.
Right.
And of course, she came back in 2013, I want to say, and finally did it. Now, here's we tried to get her on the show, Anna and me, back then. But for whatever reason, we couldn't get her on. Maybe she'll come on now.
That'd be amazing. Right. Yeah, September 2nd, 2013, right?
Yeah. It was 2013, and we tried to get her back on the show because I had been following this woman's career since she tried way back when.
Wow.
Right? And how can you not? I mean, she's an ultra athlete at the highest order, doing something that only two other people have ever done. They were much younger, and they did it within a shark cage and the whole thing. She did it in the open water.
So no one has done what she has done.
No one has done what she's done. And she did it, folks. I want you to hear this. This is the theme of this show. She was 63.
My God.
Right? And she tried, it's 103 miles, and she tried not once, not twice, not 3 times, 5 times before she got there, right? This is what you call sticking to your goals. You understand? Sure, you got your stomach cut out, right? You had bariatric surgery. You lost 100 pounds, and then you gained it all back. You don't give up. You don't give up at all. You do it again, right?
Yeah. I mean, who knows more about that? I mean, we all do, but I'm in that camp. How many times have I said, oh, never again. I'm not going back to buying those big pants. And I go, damn it. And you start over again. And I've gotten rid of, the size 1 and 2 sizes up just because I'm thinking like, I'm done. I don't want to do that anymore. And that's a teeny tiny scale. This woman started doing that. By the way, if I'm looking at this correctly, she took a nice long break between her 4th and 5th try. It looks like it was 74, 75, 78, 79, 2013.
No, that's wrong.
Oh, is it?
Wrong. Yeah, she tried once or twice. She tried once back then, and something happened, and that's when she had that snowplow in front of her.
Oh, okay.
And then when she started trying again, like in 2010, that's when she was like, hey, I'm already in shape. I don't want to fall out of shape again. She kept trying, and something happened every time. One time, I think she got caught in the Gulf, in that Gulf Stream, pulling her the wrong way, pulling her out to Jamaica, something happened every time. And then that was also a time when someone gave her a pill that almost killed her.
Nope, you're right. You're right. Sorry, I got lazy and just looking at the dates. But yeah, 2nd attempt, 3rd attempt, 4th attempt. We're talking 2011, 2012. And at what point do you go, you know what? I think the water is trying to tell me something, that God love you for trying, but that you're just not supposed to do this. Well, she said, hey, water, F you.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, everything, I talk to people about this all the time. I'll put it in my book. It's not about your IQ. It's about your FQ, your failure quotient, the number of times you can fail and come back. Because when you think about it, you only have to succeed once.
Right.
Right. So I used to have a buddy. I tell the story all the time. Played football with him, defensive back, African-American guy. And we're talking about the early 80s. He always wanted to go with me to the white discos where all the white kids went, right?
I'd love to see you at a disco.
And it wasn't pretty.
No, I bet it was.
I would always say to him, there might be one girl in here or 2 girls, right? That there's probably because he's really good looking, there's probably a lot of girls that want to sleep with you, but we had social pressure back then. And even if they wanted to, you're not going to get to them because they have their friends to contend with.
Right. They dare not.
So you're cutting your odds down a gazillion %. And his attitude was, you know what? I can fail all night. I just have to get to one success. Guy was a genius. I'm sure he's done well in life.
Yeah. It's a numbers game for your hot friend.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like, I just need one success.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing, when you think about it, you watch football nowadays, everything comes down to a field goal. You can go, oh my God, this team is down by 7. There's only 30 seconds left on the clock and they got to drive 80 yards. You see these teams and you go, okay, it's not over with yet.
I'm seeing that now firsthand with basketball season because my husband is obsessed with the Lakers and that's all we do is watch Laker games. And last night, as we record this, between Lakers and the Heat, 108 to 107 Heat, and it was, after the buzzer, it was still close.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, because I'm not a big sports person, like this is real. This is the drama I was craving.
Yeah. And when you think about it, life is the same way.
Yeah.
When people go, you make statements like, oh, the universe is telling me something, or, oh, it wasn't meant for me. Or, I always go back to a great movie, Moonstruck.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be married. Why? What happened? On the way to the wedding, I chopped my hand off. Whatever the stupidity.
That's right.
You grow up in an Italian family, that's what life is. I'm not meant to do that. Why? I tried once and it didn't work out for me. I'm not meant to do that.
Right.
Well, hell, if I did that, I would still be sitting on a bayou fishing because I failed at everything. Except when I did succeed at one thing, I would use that to build onto something else. Build. Hell, look. I don't know if this might match. It might not.
Let's find out.
When I was getting recruited to play college football, Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State. Now, I wasn't going to ever go to Alabama, but I took my trip there just to say I got to go to Alabama.
You didn't want to roll Tide?
We rolled Todd.
Todd.
Oh, Todd.
Roll Todd.
We rolled a guy named Todd. I knew I would never play there. It was, there was no way. Right. And I don't even think they never offered me a scholarship, but they offered me a trip. They wanted to meet and greet and the whole thing. And I knew they weren't serious because on my trip, I didn't even get to meet the Bear. The Bear was still the coach there, and it was like in his last year. He was going to retire the next year. So I wasn't important enough to meet the famous Paul Bear Bryant. Right. So, I had big colleges, and every time I went to a college town, it reminded me of where I grew up. Every guy was driving an F-100 or F-150, depending, because that's the years they were changing them. And they all had skull streaks down the side because they were spitting out the window. Right?
Not skull streaks, skull streaks.
Yeah. And Copenhagen. But you would see it, and it was like, wow, this is, Oxford, Mississippi is pretty much where I grew up. LSU, right across the river from where I grew up. Everybody just assumed I was going to go to LSU.
Right.
It was like, oh, yeah, he's going to LSU. But when I went to Tulane, just to take the trip, and I'm going to be honest with you, I can talk about my friend now because he's dead, Danny Barry, because they would always let you take a friend with you. And, on these recruiting trips.
Sure.
All my friends always wanted to go. So I took Danny and we went. I was like, oh, I'm not going to Tulane, but Danny wants to go. And they give you get free everything.
Oh, sure. You're VIP.
And there's a girl or two that they call them ambassadors. I don't know if they still do this, who fall in love with you over the weekend and can't wait for you to show up at school the next year.
Wow.
Yeah. That went on in 1980. Yes, ma'am. That's what was going on.
Oh, and so I was going to say, what was it about Tulane that you loved? But I think you might have just answered that question.
No, because every school you went to, there was an ambassador.
Oh, sure.
As a matter of fact, the Tulane ambassador wasn't the best of the ambassadors. I would like to say the one down in Oxford was pretty nice.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, pretty nice. At any rate, when I went to Tulane, I started looking around. I wasn't serious about this school, right? I didn't want to live in a big city like New Orleans, or did I? Right. All of a sudden, I'm looking at tall buildings like I saw on the show Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm seeing like, metropolitan. I'm seeing it for the first time. We used to go there all the time because I had relatives there, but we would go to their house. It was poor Italians in the poor Italian section of town, right? I didn't get to really see New Orleans.
Right. The upper crust and the booming metropolis.
And St. Charles Avenue and all of that, right? The university is right on St. Charles Avenue in uptown New Orleans. And And then they introduced me to these kids known as Jews. Yes. In my mind, Jesus Christ was the only Jew. Gina, come back to the mic, Gina.
Known as Jews, the mythical creatures, Vinny.
Yeah, I'd heard about them. They were in the Bible. We talked about them.
They weren't in your
most
neck of
famous
the. Well, they sold him out, from what I understand, to the Romans. But you didn't grow up around our kind.
No, I grew up with the Hirsch family, Dr. Hirsch, go figure,
Okay,
who was
sure.
my mom and dad's best friend. They all went to high school together, and we grew up with his kids. They lived right next door. I think they put the Jews and the Italians close to each other, keep an eye on us.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't want to have to go looking all over the place. Just put them right there. But you know, they didn't act very Jewish. Now their grandfather, Gaston Hirsch, he had the numbers. He was in a death camp.
Was he from France?
Yeah.
Gaston? Huh.
Gaston. He was a French Jew and somehow ended up in a death camp somehow.
Oh boy.
Had the numbers, right?
And
right
escaped, obviously.
Yeah.
He was liberated.
Yeah, he somehow, I want to say it happened towards the end or something, and he was able to get out. I don't know what the story is.
Oh boy.
But those are the Jews I knew, and that's how I knew about the Holocaust, was from the Hirsch family. And they went to the Catholic school with us.
Oh wow.
Dr. Hirsch would sit in the Catholic church with his kids every Sunday, but his wife, who was also Jewish, did not go. She you know, and the reason being was Dr. Hirsch wanted his kids to understand both religions.
Smart.
Why not? And I'm seeing these, other than the Jews I knew, I'm seeing these other Jews, and it seems to be a lot of them. And they seem to be dressed differently than I was. They seem to have a different attitude, you know, from what I had.
Huh.
They drove a car named, it was called a Saab.
Sure, the Saab. Does the Saab still exist?
I'm sure the company still exists. Now, I never seen a Saab in Donaldsonville. The front of the car and the back of the car looked exactly the same. I didn't know.
Oh, right.
It's like, oh, you could drive backwards and nobody would know. Right? They also drove Porsches, and the only Porsche I'd seen before that was, you know, Dr. Hirsch.
Sure.
And Dr. Schexnayder, they had one. But you know, it was, and I'm looking at these kids, and I tell everyone, the crazy thing is I was a little concerned because they couldn't afford good watches. They had the knockoff Timex called Rolexes.
Oh my God.
I didn't have the heart to tell them, oh, you can go get a nice Timex for about $9.
Oh my God.
But they had a knockoff of that. I had no idea. No idea. Right. But I knew these kids were different. And I looked at that as the stepping stone. I looked at that as the step. I went, I need to be here. And I started talking to my parents, and I said, you know, I've been offered a scholarship there. I'm really considering this.
Wait, so for real, one of the things that you considered a draw to the university was the Jewish kids?
Not the football team as much as the kids.
Wow.
They had, I picked up on a couple of kids that weekend that were different than me. Right. I just picked up on it, and it, you know, it's one of those divine interventions. You know, Danny was there just to party and get his girl.
Sure.
You know, they always hand you a couple. My girl was this, you know, she wasn't up to party so much as she was kind of like a Jewish Christy McNichol, just kind of a serious girl. Right. And she started talking to me about, you know, what do you want to study? And what you know, it's like, study. I'm here to play football, babes.
Yeah. Are we even supposed to be talking about that?
But you see, it's that stepping stone.
Yeah.
Whatever that's I left that weekend. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Right. I couldn't stop thinking about being there. And I'll never forget, you know, since I knew I was going to go there and I had gotten along with the strength and training coach, I said to him, hey, look, I know I don't know if it's protocol, but can I come up next weekend and maybe work out here with you guys and see what the program is? Absolutely. Now, you're not supposed to do that. You only get X number of visits and all that. But after, I drove myself there on my dime and went and worked out with them at their gym with some of the players, and ran into a player that I used to go to sports camp with in the summers.
Oh, when you were doing like the 5-a-days?
No, we used to go to these sports camps where, you ever see the movie Hoop Dreams, where they get together and the whole thing?
Yep.
Yeah, those kind of camps still go on, where you go to these camps and they look at you and the whole thing. One of the guys I met in one of those camps, he was there. We're still friends today, Mike Fiducia. And he took me around a little bit and took me around campus, and we talked a lot about, how important it is. And he could have gone to LSU, and he decided on Tulane. Right.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, this is a stepping stone. This is where I belong. I can use my prowess as an athlete to learn something new about the world.
Yes.
Right. I never had an espresso until then.
Wait, you come from 15 million generations of Italians.
Yeah, we didn't have an espresso machine.
Oh, well, that makes sense, I guess.
We had a coffee pot.
Yeah.
We didn't have an electric coffee pot. You had to pour the water in the top and drip down through.
Oh, God, that's so funny, because talk about everything old is new again, or rich man, poor man. That's the only way the very fancy, trendy coffee shops will give you your coffee now.
Yeah.
You'll wait. You'll come back in 40 minutes when the drip is done.
Yeah. I have one of those drip things right here in my coffee bar behind me.
Of course you do. Of course.
I own a coffee company. So whenever I want to sample coffees, I do cuppings, and I'll do it 5 different ways to see how the different coffees taste.
But the thing about you is you are rare, and and you're lucky that this is inherently who you are, because most people will say, this feels weird. I'm in a new place. It doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel familiar. I'm going to go to a place that I relate to more. And it sounds like you did exactly the opposite.
The fact that it scared me shitless was the reason I went. It scared me. Every bit of it scared me, because it fell way outside of my comfort zone.
Sure.
But that's what you have to do. That's what Diana Nyad has to do. Right?
Absolutely.
30 years later, when everyone's saying, hey, go get yourself some comfortable shoes and, get ready to take folks home.
Yeah, some knitting needles and be done.
Yeah. No, that's not what she did.
Well, it's like that phrase, as cliche and cheesy as it sounds. Oh, there's the trailer for the Diana Nyad movie. The world contracts and expands according to your courage. Yeah. So your world got big.
It certainly changed, yeah.
Because you had the courage to allow it to get big. Yeah, they're showing, here's Jodie Foster, here's Annette Bening. I had no idea this movie was a thing that was even coming out.
I saw it on my Netflix last week, and I went, oh boy, I got to watch it.
And it's called Nyad, Nyad.
Yeah, and it's done in a good way, and they don't make her look like any kind of hero, because she's an incredibly flawed human being. Right? She's very narcissistic, can't stop talking about herself, to the point where the Jodie Foster character comes in, knows where she's getting ready to go off of a ledge, and just brings her back. Right? They have this relationship. And by the way, they're not lovers in the movie.
Oh, I figured that was her wife.
No, they're good friends. Apparently, they talk about it. They had a quick relationship, very short relationship, and realized that they were better off friends than lovers. And, they were just best friends.
That's women for you. Can you see, just in general, men and women being like, oh, we dated, he was a total scumbag, but now we're best friends? No. That's why women are better in this and multiple regards.
Women can compartmentalize that kind of stuff and somehow talk their way through it. I don't think guys have that capacity whatsoever.
Black or white? Are we together, or am I blocking you from now on? Am I losing your number?
Yeah. And guys, we don't have that kind of nuance.
Sorry, I don't mean to be distracted, but they're showing, I guess I'll call it B-roll of actual Diana Nyad swimming in the open water. And I can't take my eyes off it. My jaw's on the floor. And
Yeah.
there's nothing. You're right. There's 2 kayakers. That's it.
Yeah. They do at the beginning of it. They use a lot of footage of the original Diana Nyad.
That must be what I'm looking at.
When she's on, when she's doing it, they don't try to, they show her doing it, and they show her on the Johnny Carson show. They show her doing all this other stuff, and then it goes right into Annette Bening, right? And they do a really good job of, they don't try to make Annette. Of course, Annette looks exactly like the older version of Diana,
right?
When she does it, and just does an incredible, just the whole thing. And the thing I loved about it was 2 hours long, which means whenever I watch a movie during the day, I'm going to be in my aerobic equipment.
Yep.
Plus, I took a meeting right in the middle, so I did 2 hours and 20 minutes of aerobics because I went, hey, I'm staying on I was on a bike for an hour and 20, and I was on a rowing machine for an hour.
That's great.
That's just the way it goes.
And, I know you don't have kids this age, and neither do I, but this story reminds me of anyone with kids who has to write a report on a famous athlete that they really look up to. Maybe your kid doesn't need to do LeBron. Maybe they don't need to do Michael Jordan. Pardon the pun, but they could do a deeper dive. Do somebody like Diana Nyad, somebody who is so deserving of this recognition. This is all the school reports. This is the time. And it doesn't always have to be LeBron as much as we love him.
Yeah. And for everyone who's not in school and you think it's over with for you, I'm not saying try to swim from Cuba to
Key West,
Florida, but go find what that thing is that you want to do. Because when you're 60 or 61 or 62, you're staring at 80. And you're lucky if you get there.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you get there. And when I think back 20 years, I can go back 20. Hell, I had cancer almost 20 years ago. That felt like last week.
Yeah.
I can touch 20 years back, which means I can touch 20 years in the future. And I'm going to be there in 2 seconds. And, so you got to do what you got to do, because this ain't no dress rehearsal. I talk about that all the time. So think about that. Think about the Diana Nyads of the world. And by the way, the soundtrack in this movie is unbelievable. And the part where they show towards the end of her hallucinating in the water and the whole deal, take it from a guy who's done ultra sports. That's real. That happens. I talk about it in my book, right? I had a coyote that rode next to me. He walked next to me while I was riding for a long time. Turns out there was a real coyote that walked alongside. I was going up a hill, so I was only moving a few miles an hour. He came out and trotted next to me for a while, and I said hello to him, and he just kept trotting, and then he went off. And in my mind, he was still there. So I kept talking to him for the next hour. There's tons of stories like that.
So the volleyball named Wilson, this does happen to people when they're alone long enough and they're exerting enough energy.
Well, the Wilson thing is different, I think. When it's not just exerting the energy, is when you go when you go past 35, 40 hours, that's when it happens. You got to be really tired, and you have to be deprived of sleep. And then you start getting the hallucinations. And you see all kinds of cool stuff.
It's probably the closest you personally have ever been to tripping on acid.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll never forget one time when my buddy Don Coddington and I, hang on.
Don Coddington's Friday, 5 o'clock.
It's when we took my nephews up, and, we didn't go to sleep that night, and we were going to start climbing early for them. And they didn't make it, so I had to walk down with them. And Coddington had never done Whitney before, and he was going up by himself. And he told me, it took him a long time that time because we kept waiting for my nephews, and he was out there all night. And now it's the next afternoon, and he's still out there. And later on that evening, when we were having dinner, he said, man, I kept seeing what I thought were black bears out of the corner of my eyes. And I would look, and it would be a stump. And I went, oh yeah, that's the beginning of the hallucinations. Like stumps and tree formations and everything, they become real things. And there's nothing stopping you from knowing that that's a real thing, right? Wait, what happened to your sound, Gina?
I don't know. Am I
There you
here?
are. Yeah, you're back.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. But he got out of this, he was down and, I went and picked him up, before he got into incredible, hallucinations. But like when people say, "Oh yeah, no, I saw Bigfoot or the Yeti," I was up on, the people who have claimed to have seen the Yeti on Everest, right?
Right.
He's like, "No, I saw a Yeti," and it's like, you hadn't
Eh.
slept for 3 days.
Yeah.
That's what you saw.
That's so great to hear that. I mean, yet another explanation for all Sasquatch or the abominable snowman or whatever. You might want to make sure you got a nap before you saw him and then get back to me.
Yeah. Look, she saw the Taj Mahal, right?
Wow.
With a yellow brick road in front of it. And it's like, oh yeah, I get it. Folks, that is real. That's what happens to people when you're up for days on end.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, you're right. I've never tripped an acid or anything. Still haven't smoked my first joint. But I can tell you this, I'm guessing that's pretty close to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would imagine that it's all kind of the same when you're depriving yourself of sleep that long and, you're kind of seeing tracers or seeing stuff out of the corner of your eye. Well, you can eliminate the middleman and putting the poison in your body because you just had the same experience.
Folks, you can find Miss Gina Grad if you go over to the Brian and Gina show over on, what's it called, Gina?
LA Magazine.
Yeah, LA Magazine, Brian and Gina show. I listen to it every week. I will admit I haven't listened yet this week because I haven't gone out to blow my leaves yet. That's when I do my listening. That's when my good, sweet listening come in.
Good.
So I'm gonna have to find a new, because I would listen to you guys when I was cutting grass and that kind of stuff. I need to find a new time because grass cutting,
that's over.
I got about 2 more weeks of leaf blowing and then I'm done.
Well, I'll be very, depending on when this episode that you and I are doing right now airs, I'll be very interested in what you think of as we record this Saturday's episode, because we have an energy healer on who I had come to know from, just out and about in LA. And she's really amazing. And I thought, oh boy, Brian is going to be so, Mr. Pushback. He was into it. So I'll be very curious what your thoughts on that sort of stuff is, and unblocking those parts of your body, and in a way, the book, The Body Keeps the Score, like just kind of letting that energy flow.
I have some belief in that because Dr. Sarno, who did the how you save your back,
oh yeah,
back pain, famous Dr. Sarno. I have the guy who did the documentary on that on this show years ago, and I've stayed in touch with that guy. And this guy was a guy who couldn't get off the floor, couldn't go to work, lost his job, everything else, and read Sarno's book. And it's all about dealing with that pain in your head and making it go away. And that's part and parcel of what we're talking about here today. So I'm very interested in it's all the same. It's all the same beast. Right.
Oh, absolutely. And I think these days we're less, thinking it's hocus pocus, and we have more of an understanding of like, your attitude affects your cells. Sometimes it just does. And I've never had a back problem my entire life, but I was laid up literally on the kitchen floor for the entire day before my dad's funeral. My back seized up. That's never happened before. It's never happened since. So I know these spots in your body really do respond to your emotional health. And if somebody wants to sort of hover their hands over me and do what they can to unblock it, who am I to say it doesn't work?
No, you're absolutely right. So I can't wait to hear that show. Folks, this is coming out, I think, on the 15th of this month. We've been having, and Gina and I are going to do a big push for this next week, but we've had a ton of people sign up.
Yes.
VinnieTortorich.com/VIP. Continue to sign up. And we will let you guys know on the 30th of this month. We will open it up to the people on the VIP group first. And there's going to be at least 30 spots that will be open to get a really special price. Everyone else will also get a very special price, but it won't be as low as the first 30. And then after that, if this group takes off, you could keep that price for as long as you don't break your subscription. And everyone else is going to be at a much higher price. So
Oh, good. Okay. So we're still in beta testing pricing.
because I'm going to start this thing, for a month with whoever signs up. That's
Right.
why I'm giving a deal to the whole group. But the first 30, because I want
Right.
people to hustle and sign up. The first 30 is going to be $12. And then
Right.
after that is going to be like, $19.95. Right. And then
Yeah.
after that is going to go up.
You're never going to have to mortgage your house, but you might as well get the best price.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
going to
great.
always be inexpensive. So go check that out. You know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. That's where you could get Gina's book, My Extra Mom. It's in my book club and it's right there on the front. I do a little review on it. So go check that out.
Oh, and as a companion, a free companion to that, please follow me on Instagram at My Extra Family. I am putting up content like you wouldn't believe, and I'm getting such wonderful feedback. It's for families and step parents. Thank you so much, My Extra Family on Instagram.
Go check that out. Gina reminded me of a song that I love towards the end of this show. So on behalf of Gina Grad, put life into living, and let's listen to some Hocus Pocus and Focus. Oh, I love the song.